Good morning everyone, welcome to Critical Focus. I wanted to today just highlight some of my favorite point and shoot cameras because I think point and shoots are a great way to get into film. It's a great way to bring high quality, large sensor size and get the great film look that is so sought after still, even with digital shooters, in a small pocket-sized package. So these are the ones that are sitting on my shelf now. I think I will do a separate video on each one individually, but now I just wanted to go a quick run through of the ones that I currently use and show some examples. So I'll just start the most expensive. This is not the most expensive point and shoot you can buy, but it's one of them, the Contax T2. This camera here is the holy grail of point and shoots. Not necessarily the best or the most expensive because there's the Contax T3, which costs almost double the price, but the T2 is pretty awesome, and to me it's one of the best you can get. Pop out the lens and you can set the aperture priority on top or set it to the program mode, which is the green 2.8. Will automatically choose the aperture size. The great thing about this camera is it comes with the Carl Zeiss Sonar lens. It's 2.8 maximum aperture. I don't think any of these, no, that's the most that any of these cameras will give you. But it's pretty much enough, especially with the built-in flash, which is pretty bright. You can also manually focus, but don't recommend that. Next up, this one is the RICO GR1S. This one has, the one I got has some tape over it and I didn't take it off because it would get all goopy. This camera here, I would say form factor wise, is probably the nicest camera I've ever held or used. I love the way this camera feels to hold. It also takes amazing photos. The flash is a little bit weaker than the one on the T2. But I find that the modes are a little bit better. The has program modes separate from the 2.8 so that you can specify that you want it to be 2.8, whereas on the Contax T2, if you set it to 2.8 aperture, it will actually automatically choose program, like a program auto exposure mode. The only thing I don't like about this camera, or the thing I like the least, is the fact that the power button on the back here is so easy to accidentally press in your pocket that sometimes the lens just pops out without you wanting it to. But this camera also takes awesome photos, feels really light, really awesome, solid, well made, made of metal, magnesium. These two cameras, unfortunately, are both really popular these days, and with the resurgence of film, you're also seeing the price of used point and shoots increasing as well. So I got this one for around $250, but I look at eBay now and it's around $400-ish. You can, if you're lucky, you can wait around for a good deal. Mine was a bit well worn, you could say, so it's not like in tip-top physical shape, but functionally it's perfect. This one I spent 1,000 Norwegian kroners on. But if you look on eBay, it's around $400 as well. It has tends to have issues with the screen on top. Mine has issues with the screen, but I can get into that more in a separate video. As far as the photos it takes really great photos. Next up is the Olympus Stylus Epic. This camera, I don't know, this is actually my favorite of the bunch because it just combines being tiny, having a good flash, having really nice autofocus. The lens I think is actually one of my favorites, 35mm 2.8 large aperture lens, it says on the lens, which is kind of silly. There's a few things I don't like about it, like that the flash is automatically on and you have to press the flash button twice every time you turn the camera on if you want to turn off the flash. That's the most annoying thing. But everything else is pretty awesome about this camera. It is super small. It looks hilarious. It looks like a spaceship from a 1980s cartoon or something. But it takes awesome photos. It's also weather sealed, apparently. I took it to Mexico once and dropped it in the sand. Got sand all up in the battery compartment and it still worked fine. It's just kind of hilarious when you think that this tiny camera and this DSLR have the same effective image sensor size, or the film in here and the sensor in here are the same size. And to be honest, I think that the quality of this is on par with the quality of this. It's ridiculous. I love this camera. I paid about $45 for it on eBay because the person that sold it didn't know if it worked or not. So I just got lucky. If you just want to scoop one up on a buy it now, I think it's around $150-ish. Next up is the Lomo LCA. This is the cult camera that started the whole lomography company, actually, if you've heard of them before. The LCA was originally produced in the Soviet Union at the Lomo factory. You can also find versions of this where the Lomo is spelled with the Cyrillic Russian characters. This camera is nice because it has a really punchy, contrasty lens. You have this sort of manual zone focus where you, on the side where you set the distances, which is on the one hand nice, but a little annoying if you forget to set it. You can also set the aperture size here. I just kind of leave it on auto usually. It has this nice little built-in lens cap type thing. This is the only camera of the bunch here that has a hot shoe, which is nice. So you can throw on any sort of flash that you want. The only thing that is unfortunate about this is that these cameras were around $40-50 before, but since Lomography has bought up the factories and started producing them, they sell them new for I think $250 or something like that. So even the old ones have gone up in price to around $100. But I got this one here on the local classifieds page. I paid 400 kroners. It's like around $50, and it's pretty cool. It's got a nice solid feel to it. If you're shopping around for something like this, I would actually recommend rather to get this one. As you can see, it looks really similar. It's a bit lighter, but the size is about the same. The reason why I like this one, this is the Olympus A2, is because I think the lens is actually a bit nicer. This was a 2.8 aperture, but this is a 3.5, but still I think this one has a nicer contrast. I think this one exposes a little bit better. This one tends to underexpose, I think. Yeah, I just think that this is a really cool, it just takes some really awesome photos. I spent maybe 3 or 4 years shooting mostly this camera, actually. when I was first traveling around Europe, and I love it. It fits in a pocket. It's pretty rugged. It's taken a lot of beatings. You can see from the back. It's gotten beat up a lot, but it still works awesome. This camera is about $30-ish, I think still. I haven't looked up lately, but it hovers around $30, I think. And you can spend $30 and get this camera and not really need any of this stuff. The only thing it doesn't have is a flash. You can get a built-in flash on the side, but it's kind of a rather large unit that just screws onto the side, and you have to get the one that was built specifically for this camera, which is kind of annoying. But other than that, it's awesome. You take a photo and you like give it the little crank. I want to show you. Take a photo and you like crank this little wheel, and it gives you a great sound and feeling. This one also has the little wheel crank. Alright, well, that kind of wraps it up. Like I said before, I'll do a longer video about each of these to talk more about the pros and cons and show some more examples. But for now, if you want to see more, read a few more of my thoughts about these cameras, you can check out the blog post at criticalfocus.co. I'll put a link down below. See you later.